Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 22, Story 6, Revelation of the Daleks. The final story of Season 22, and the one and only on-screen Colin Baker Dalek story, Sixth Doctor Dalek story. And the fourth appearance of Davros, played by Terry Malloy, for the second time. And also, Roy Skelton will be back voicing the Daleks in this story, alongside Royce Mills. However, I do have to say, Roy Skelton, I think by this point he has lost his touch. The Daleks don't sound that threatening in this story. They actually sound quite awkward. In fact, there's very little Dalek presence in this story. It's actually very much a Davros story with Daleks in the background until the very end when there's a final battle between two fractions of Daleks. Not the Dalek Civil War just yet, but this is what will start that. We'll see how that escalates in Remembrance. I was about to say Resurrection for some reason. But yeah, Davros does mention his escape from Resurrection, although it's more accurate to say that it's following the last meeting as heard in the audio Davros. Yeah, so that audio comes in between the two, Resurrection and Revelation. And yeah, nicely ties in the two. But yeah... Because if we were to say this is Davros did escape in an escape pod after Resurrection, it wouldn't quite explain how his chair thing happened. Malfunctioned with the Muvalan virus. But oh well, like the Master, you could just say Davros could just go, I escaped, and he'd escape. I think that's also what Stephen Moffat did with 2015's The Magician's Apprentice. Big Finish, when you do 12th Doctor audio starring Peter Capaldi, maybe you could have a Davros or Juggernaut style story where or the 11th Doctor, or even the 10th Doctor, could meet Davros in a story set between Journey's End and Magician's Apprentice. Perhaps. Anyway. But yeah, Davros is the main villain of Revelation, and there are a few Daleks in it, but they don't really do an awful lot. Davros' plan is to... turn dead people or people in suspended animation so that they don't quite die just yet, and turn the richer ones into Daleks and everybody else into food to expand to outer worlds. And that's basically his plan. He's also set up this plan to capture the Doctor, who he knows is in his sixth incarnation. Not on-screen reason isn't told. But again, if you listen to Davros, the Sixth Doctor meets him there, so that probably gives him some helps in a way. So yeah, but on screen it doesn't really explain how Davros knows the Doctor's regenerated. And what is a nice touch though is that the Daleks who come to arrest him at the end do not recognise the Doctor. That is actually a good point. But without the context of the audio Davros, which was made in 2003, you'd be a bit confused on how Davros knows the Sixth Doctor is the Doctor, about his regeneration. Unlike the Master, he didn't project a mental image of himself to the Doctor's mind and tell him that it was time for him to die. Die, Doctor! That was great. But that was back last season. Yeah, so I'm not sure how about that. Okay, but Davros is doing all of this stuff, posing as the great healer on the planet Necros, and they're at this funeral place called Tranquil Repose. And there's quite a few characters at this place. There's this guy, Joe Bell, that's it. Joe Bell, who's a very pompous guy. He's very self-obsessed, and he's quite a bit of a creep, and he likes picking up women, so to speak. His infidelity, which kind of upsets his protege, Tessa Maker, who has a bit of a thing for him. Of course, when Jobel rejects her and insults her in part 2, she, of course, kills him with a hypodermic needle, which is pretty brutal, but I can see why that scene was included. And this was after Davros had ordered her to kill Jobel anyway, but because of her feelings, she tried to get him to run away, but when he kind of turned her down, I say run away and she could go with him, and when he turns her down, she pretty much snaps and kills him. And that was great, although her death by Daleks, who probably saw her attempt to save Jobel before killing him, they decide, oh, you betrayed us, exterminate. Or, I guess they missed the part where she killed him. Whoops. It was actually kind of a weak death, to be honest. Not Jobel's, that was a great bit. And I presume the chemicals would have gone into him. But I expect a needle being stabbed into your chest or heart would probably kill you. It makes sense for that to kill you, even without anything inside, any chemicals or anything. But Tess Maker's death is a bit weak. There's also these other two guys who get out alive, surprisingly, considering how many people die in this story. It is Eric Sayward writing this story. But considering how many people get out alive, and there's quite a few people, and in terms of importance to the story, I mean, you've got quite a few people working at Tranquil Repose who don't really have that much importance. But in terms of people important to the story, besides the main two, you and Davros, you've actually got these two guys who, yeah, their likability flip-flops depending on the scenes they're in. Sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're bastards, and sometimes they're actually quite nice. Yeah, it's difficult to like these guys until the very end, because they kind of flip-flop between being pricks and being absolute bastards. But at some points they're okay. Yeah, it's a bit strange. And also there's these two supposedly body snatchers. That's what they're presumed to be. But it turns out that it's the daughter of the guy the Doctor and Perry have come to see, and a friend of hers, and who's also a doctor, by the way. And they stumble across what Davros is doing, and eventually Natasha, who's the daughter of the guy who the Doctor and Perry came to see, Mr. Arthur Strangros, she has to blow him up as he's now encased in a Dalek casing. Then they're captured by Prick and Pricker and tortured in a way. And Pricker makes the doctor guy, Natasha's friend, he makes him drunk by force drinking him the alcohol he had. And then after he's kind of drunk and maybe passed out or feeling unwell, Pricker then is rattling him in his chains and just hurting him, making him worse, and he wants him to talk. But like Natasha said, I wasn't the one who made him drunk, so that should have been Pricker's, the other guy, Pricker's realization as to the fact that he can't talk in this state, and he's just making it worse on him, and that means he's not going to be able to talk to him about pretty much anything in this state. So Pricker is a bit stupid in that moment, and I feel that's a very unnecessary piece of violence bits there. I think that was unnecessary, uncalled for. Yeah, making him force drink, that torture to show these guys they mean business. They're ruthless guys, but to basically just keep roughing him up when sick and drunk, it's uncalled for. Actually, thinking about it, if Dr. Guy had thrown up on Pricker, then that would have called for that bit, because then Pricker would get a bit of a comeuppance at the same time, and maybe Dr. Guy would feel a bit better and maybe start talking. So Pricker would get what he wants, but he'd have to have the embarrassment of being sickly. It would also give him motivation for any more nasty torture on the guy. But he would also stop and think about, actually, I might get him even more covered and sick, so I better not. So, yeah. There's also one other guy to talk about, and that's the DJ. And he is very annoying in part 1. In part 2, on the other hand, he is a great character. Part 1, he's just cutting between scenes of him in his annoying American accent. And he's just, it's annoying. But in part 2, Perry goes to meet him, and he's actually a really nice guy. He's quite likable. He helped her stop the Daleks while she transmits some messages to the president's ship to tell them not to come here. Don't come here. And he's really great. He's quite funny. It's a good backstory. So, yeah, the DJ, I hate him in part 1. I love him in part 2. Mostly. Okay, I don't hate him, but I dislike him. I find him annoying in part 1. I think he's really great and enjoyable in part 2. So, yeah, it's just how how he was written and executed in the 2 separate episodes. Yeah. As for the 6th Doctor and Perry, well, I think this could be Perry's best story since Twin Dilemma, possibly excluding 2 Doctors. But I think this is Perry's best story. She actually has some great moments, and Nicola Bryant possibly gives her best performance since Kaysa Vandrazani, possibly. I mean, I did like her in 2 Doctors, but I think this is her best one. And 6th Doctor, I think he's great here as well, and Colin Baker, he's nailed it by this point. I think we'll just have to accept that parts of his personality are parts of his personality, where he gets a bit cross, he gets snappy up the set, cross, and it can be a bit jarring for some people, but I think by now you've got to accept it as part of his personality. It is his 7th story, and if you count Trial of a Time Lord as an overall one, it is his penultimate. That being said, Trial of Time Lord is 14 episodes, so yeah, we've had 13 this season and 4 Twin Dilemmas. That'd be 17 already. You can sit through another 14. But I think Colin does a fantastic job here, and I love his reaction when he hears Perry scream at the Daleks for killing the DJ. I just love that reaction, and he comforts her when they meet up again. That's great. I think they both do brilliant jobs, and I love his performance when talking with Davros. I think the 6th Doctor's best moments outside Vengeance on Varos are when he's in TV form anyway, is when he's talking to Davros in part 2 of this story. It's just so brilliant. My only problem with the 6th Doctor and Perry in this story is that in part 1 they do absolutely hardly anything. It's a long walk from the TARDIS. They meet a mutant who Perry accidentally kills. She does feel remorse over it though. And the Doctor sort of comforts her, I think. I'm not quite sure. They climb over a wall. Perry damages the Doctor's thing that he uses to hypnotise the mutant earlier. I thought it was going to be his cloak thing he was wearing on over the top, but it turns out to be his little medallion thing. And then they go into the tranquil repose, and the Dalek goes past them and does absolutely nothing to them because Davros' order. And then they go to the Guard of Remembrance, where a fake statue, which you can clearly see is fake before it squashes the Doctor. You can see it wobble a little bit. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But then it does crush the Doctor, and that's the end of part 1. And then part 2 opens with the Doctor able to get it off him because it wasn't real stone. And then part 2, and then in part 2, the Doctor and Perry are really great. I mean, like I said, they didn't do anything in part 1, or at least not much in terms of story. But part 2, they're quite crucial to it and help move it along at a brisker pace. There's also this character played by Eleanor Barron, who cameoed in City of Death with John Cleese. She plays a character here who has, with a secretary, they run this company that sold food to the few major other planets, and they've hired this assassin called Orsini and his squire Bostov to kill Davros, and we follow these guys going to attempt to kill Davros. Again, part 2, they do a bit more stuff, including what appears to be a successful assassination on Davros. However, it turns out it was a fake, and the real Davros in his chair, this fake Davros, was in this sort of white boxy thing with the head in a kind of a glass cylinder thing. Yeah, I'm not sure how that was working, but okay. But Davros in the shadows comes out and pretty much defeats them, and now he can shoot lightning from his hands, and maybe his eye as well. The hand lightning shooty stuff, by the way, would return in Journey's End with his new glove. Although it's interesting that he can shoot lasers, lightning from his hand before he got it shot off by Bostrov in this story. Also, the eye thing I just remembered was from the fake Davros shooting lightning from his eye somehow. Do have to say, with Davros's eyes, they look kind of purple undertone, but his left eye is blackened. I'm not sure why they didn't blacken the other one. But yeah, Terry Malloy does a fantastic performance as Davros, and the guys playing the assassins, they're brilliant as well. And I like how Bostroff sacrifices himself to stop Davros from activating his Daleks by blowing off his hand, which of course means that Davros would need a metal hand in the new series, and you'll know why when we get to that story. He also has a metal clawy hand on the cover of the Big Finish Audio Terra Firma cover. Not quite the same one as the Stolen Earth one, but same principle. Metal claw hand. In this new series case, just a metal hand. And he can shoot lightning out of it in the new series. It's better done there, but he does some great lightning here. He can also hover in this story, which is, I think this is the only time on screen Davros can fly. And also we do see a hovering Dalek in part 2 where it kills the Natasha and her friend. Unnecessarily, by the way. I think those two, considering what they went through, they could have gotten out alive. It's not like Griffiths and the two rejected Cybermen who went through a lot and you thought they were going to get out alive, but no. But you felt a lot of them, you felt that they had a lot of character behind them, and it was great watching them, especially Griffiths. Here, I think they should have gotten out alive, considering the shit that they went through in this story. But just to be shot down by a Dalek, they didn't even accomplish anything before doing that, so it was a pointless waste. It's not like those guys in Resurrection of the those couple of guards from Resurrection Daleks, where they almost blew up the ship, the prison ship, but died before they succeeded. That at least they almost succeeded in what they had to do before they were killed. These guys, they didn't even get the chance to do any of it. Eric Saywood, stop killing characters off unnecessarily. Like I said, you've got the opposite problem to Stephen Moffat. In the end, Prick and Pricker, when they turn nice, call the Daleks Daleks from Skaru down to destroy Davros's new Daleks and take him back to Skaru. They take him back to Skaru, but they want to keep the new Daleks, well, the ones that they haven't exterminated, so that they can recondition them. Of course, this would later lead to the Dalek Civil War that will take place in remembrance of the Daleks. Okay, yeah, also I do like the bit where one of the Necros Daleks blows up and another Dalek is behind it, and it has this sort of reaction. It's like, in a way, I don't know if that was intentional, if that was just because of the explosion, and it was, or maybe the guy in the suit was just not in the suit, in the casing, was playing with the headset or something, but it was cool. It was a cool shot. Yeah, I think the fight scenes could have been done a little bit better though, but it's good. So on the whole, Revelation of the Daleks, it's okay. The concept idea of Davros creating new Daleks down below, and also from humans, and other humans are sent to be food in their replacement. The Doctor shows them that they can use flowers to be distributed as food, and Orsini he blows up the Davros experiments. But that concept story is a good idea. Great story, in fact, it's a great story idea. However, the rest of the story doesn't quite, I don't know, it's good. It's a good story, but I don't know, it doesn't quite feel right. I think the Daleks are quite unnecessary, besides it being Davros's experiments. And the final battle at the end when the Skaru Daleks come along in a spaceship that looks even less like a Dalek spaceship than Resurrection. Yeah, I mean, I'm supposed to hide the fact it's the Daleks, but come on, you can have better Dalek spaceship designs. They do in Remembrance and Resurrection, but yeah, it's a bit odd here. It looks like a space shuttle. Well, not even a space shuttle, it's kind of something you might see out of Star Wars. But anyway, so Revelation, it's a good story, but there's quite a few issues with it, and I think they could have it's a pretty nasty, brutal story. So I like how it's a darker toned one, but I think there's some unnecessary deaths, and I think some characters could have gotten out alive. And there's quite a few bits of unnecessary violence that didn't need to be there, like the doctor friend of Natasha being roughed up a bit more by Pricker. But on the whole, Revelation of the Daleks is a good story. It's got some great moments, but yeah, I can see why it's not that it wouldn't be for everyone. It's probably the weakest of the 80s Dalek stories, and the booklet says that Eric Saywood felt that he handled the Daleks rather badly in Resurrection. Yet, I think he actually handled them worse here, partially because I think this story doesn't actually do that much with the Daleks, apart from the final fight, but also partially, I just think they're just handled weaker anyway. They've got weaker dialogue, and I think the voices are also quite weak as well. I don't know what it is, but Roy Skelton just doesn't seem to be up for doing Dalek voices. Unlike Nicholas Briggs, who just still amazing doing Dalek voices after 13, 14 years. He's still amazing, but Roy Skelton wasn't able to stay as great as he was for long periods of time. It was okay, but he was okay here. Royce Mills also probably doesn't really do that well. I think Dalek voices will be better in Remembrance, but it's not going to be until 2005 where we're going to have great Dalek voices again. And it doesn't help that the fact that these Daleks just aren't that great anyway. At least in Remembrance they're great. Here they're not so great. So actually I think Resurrection of the Daleks is better in terms of Daleks. I think it actually is better when telling is a better Dalek story. And I think they're handled better, and I think their dialogue is better. Their voices are actually surprisingly better. Surprisingly. And yeah, I think a few more people get out of this one alive, but most of them are just background characters. But as for the Daleks themselves, I think the Daleks are, I think they're better in Resurrection than Revelation. Not Remembrance, they're the best. That's the best one. I don't know what it is, but Eric Saywood, whilst he can do Dalek dialogue and good Dalek scripts, it just kind of just still feels like there's something that's not quite 100% there. It's better than Destiny of the Daleks. It's still, they're not a joke. They are not a joke. But it's not Genesis of the Daleks or Remembrance of the Daleks either, where they're pitch point. So Eric Saywood can write Dalek stories, he can write good Dalek stories, but there's still something missing. And I think it's actually quite great that the best Dalek story of the 80s would be written by another writer, and that would be Ben Voronich. I hope I said that right, probably didn't, with Remembrance of the Daleks. So that will be the opener of season 25. Got 2 more seasons before that, but at least it's only, if you count Trial of Time, there's 1 story, 6 stories time, if you count it as 4 segment stories, then that's 9. So not long to go. Yay! And then after that, it's the rest of that season and 1 more season, then the Wilderness Years, and then half a series before Dalek. Okay. But Revelation of the Daleks, I think it's good. I was going to give this an 8 out of 10, but I'm actually going to lower it. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Is because I don't think the Daleks were written that well. I love how Davros was written. I think it was definitely a very Davros story, but I don't think the Daleks were written that well. So Eric Saywood, whatever you think of Resurrection of the Daleks, Revelation of the Daleks was not an improvement. Apart from not killing off every single supporting character. Well, if you count background characters as supporting characters. I should also mention Davros survived that story, so I think I forgot to mention that in that review, but anyway. This is also the second time where we actually do see Davros does live after this story. Destiny of the Daleks did that, but Genesis U40 was exterminated. Resurrection U40 had died from the disease, the virus. Remembrance, you would have known he'd gotten out alive. Stolen Earth, Journey's End, he supposedly dies, but he's back in Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, and then he supposedly dies there. You probably know no doubt return at some point. But yeah, but anyway, that's Revelation of the Daleks. I think it's good, but it's not that great. I think it's the weakest of the darker stories, which was originally what I thought before I lowered the score. I actually kind of think Mark of the Rani is a better story now. Yeah, I liked this story, but I actually thought Mark of the Rani was better. Yeah, I'm surprised as well. But it's still good. It's still good. I do recommend it, especially if you're okay with the darker stuff and the more nasty and brutal stuff. If you don't like that, then go to Remembrance of the Daleks, because that's less nasty than the other two 80s Dalek stories. Anyway, that's it from Season 22. Thank you for watching. We will be doing a ranking of these stories soon, and then after that we will start Season 23, The Trial of a Time Lord, with the first 4 episodes, which forms Segment 1, The Mysterious Planet. Yeah, this is next. So, yeah, we'll come to the big Trial of Time Lord season. I should be more excited for this one, but unlike Key to Time or Torchwood Children of Earth, it's not really one that kind of gets me excited. Also, the original Season 23, which would have followed a similar format to Season 22, sounded great. It sounded like it had some really great stuff. Especially as the next story would have directly followed this one, and they cut the final line at the very end. They froze on the Doctor just about to say the name of where they were going to go next. So it would be a cliffhanger for next time. But like second Spider-Man films post-2007, they seem to not want to follow that up. Certain circumstances enables anybody to follow such cliffhangers up. So, yeah, and it would have been Blackpool. They would have gone to Blackpool and they would have fought the Celestial Toymaker in the Nightmare Fair. However, Season 23, as they planned it, was cancelled. And it was replaced by Trial of a Time Lord. Yeah, and it was during the 2 Doctors that the show would be put on an 18-month hiatus, and when it returned, it was going to be on trial for its very life. But, yeah, not the most exciting season, though. I would have much preferred them to actually make Season 23 rather than Trial of a Time Lord. Yeah, I think they should have stuck with their guns and gone with the original Season 23 instead of pretty much making Trial of a Time Lord. But unfortunately, we can't. I mean, Big Finish has adapted some of them to audios, and some of them have been adapted to novelisation. I think 4 out of 6 of them for both. Well, 3 out of 6 for the audio, with the 4th coming later this year. The other 2 weren't really finished in the actual scripting department. Well, we'll take what we've got, I suppose. So next time, The Trial of a Time Lord, The Mysterious Planet. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. It's going to be a letdown, isn't it? Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. And although the Big Finish audio Davros would be more accurate. Big Finish, if you're ever going to do 12th Doctor audios, wow. When you... So for that, but as which upsets his protege and sort of yes, okay. Rory Williams, take notes. I'm joking. This guy should take. I'm joking. But they, and he wants him talk. He can't draw. That he would have been better. It might have been made good if he'd thrown up on him. That would have been really good. But in part 2, they send Perry, and I love his reaction to when Perry screams at the Daleks for killing yeah. You mean? And then part 2 opens with the Doctor being able to push it above on top. Not Remembrance of the Daleks, because we'll find out. Well, you'll know why when we get, because you'll know why. But wasn't that amazing in the? But he wasn't amazing here. Not apart from not killing off as many. This story is probably the second time of the classic series where you do see Davros definitely gets out. Well, I should say, don't forget to check out my circumstances caused those films to end on cliff. Those franchises to certain circumstances enables. I much would have I would have but we'll see how everything goes in Mysterious. But we'll see how it goes. But okay, never mind. What a letdown. That's whilst Revelation was